Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business. Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm here with Jason Forrest. Jason, welcome.
Great to be here. I'm very excited to be a part of this.
Fantastic. So you're an author, CEO, Chief Culture Officer of Forrest Performance Group, I believe Inc. 500 fastest growing company in America, made that list. You've given hundreds of keynote speeches a year. You've been consulting coaching for quite some time. Now, I know what a CEO is, but I think a lot of people might wonder, well, what does a Chief Cultural Officer actually do? So kind of take us through, what does that role look like for you?
Well, first off, to me, a CEO stands for Chief Everything Officer. So I think one of the main roles of a CEO is to pivot to the area that they need to spend their most time and focus on. And so several years ago, I really wanted to create a best place to work environment, which we've now have won 4 times in a row, best place to work in Fort Worth out of like 80,000 businesses. We're
awesome.
excited about doing. Thank you. And culture is really everything. So culture is what happens behind the boss's back. And if you're looking to create a company to scale, then the only way to do that is to say, okay, well, how do I clone myself? So for example, when I first started my consulting business, it was myself working out of my house, and I had an assistant and outsourced some stuff. And we did $1.2 million in 12 months with just myself and like maybe less than $200,000 in overhead. Well, that's great, but I was maxed out. I mean, I was doing 100 different keynotes a year, and I don't know, over close to 1,000 hours of coaching and consulting calls. And I did the videos myself and filmed the videos and edited myself and wrote just everything was myself, right? And so then the idea was, okay, well, I want to scale this. Well, the way to do that is, how do I clone myself as much as possible? And so that's really culture. I mean, Harvard Business has a great quote that says that 70% of the worth of an organization is in their intellectual property and their human capital, which is crazy because most companies, I used to be a stockbroker at Merrill Lynch and have all the licenses for that back in the day. And you wouldn't look at a value of a company like that. You would look at it based on their sales and revenue and other things. But that's not true. It's 30% is that stuff. And 70% really is the human capital and the culture. And so the number one profit leak in an organization is people's productivity. And they say that on average, 40%, that an employee only gives you 40% of a given work week. And so it's about, how do we dial it up?
Talk to me a little bit about like what was going through your mind. So I think a lot of people are listening going, okay, Jason got his business. He was a consultant, a coach, up to 1.2 million. Yes, he was busy, but there's a lot of people in that situation who are afraid to make that leap to actually scaling the business because they've been in the corporate world, they've been in positions where they've had to manage people. They don't necessarily want to manage people anymore. They don't want a lot of complexity. What was going through your mind when you decided to actually kind of make that leap from you as a solo consultant to actually building a business with a lot more human capital?
Well, I think, look, when people procrastinate on doing any kind of goal that they want in life, there's a few reasons. So number one is they don't have a strong enough compelling vision. They don't have a strong enough why. And then I would say the second reason is they don't necessarily know how. And then the third reason is they've got some sort of leash, some sort of mental resistance that's holding them back. And so really, if you look at the first one and say, okay, well, what is their why? Like, what's the benefit for them to scale their business? So like in my case, the benefit was definitely not profit. Because I was making, as you can imagine, with 1.2 million and a couple $100,000 in overhead, I was making a lot of money back in my pocket. And so immediately to bring in more people, my profitability would go down. But the goal was, my compelling vision was, I believed that I had a training program that was better than what other people were offering out there. And I believed that other people were hurting customers. And so I was on a mission to redefine training and change cultures and transform lives. And so my compelling vision was so strong that said, you know what, I'm going to take the leap and I'm going to do this. And then the last thing there is the leashes, because the how, and everyone can talk about the how. The how is easy. You can read a book called Scaling Up or Traction. You can figure all those kind of systems out. But the last piece is the leashes. And a leash, there's 4 types of leashes I talk about a lot. One is a story, and a story is anything external. The second one is a self-image. So I don't believe I have the capability to pull this off or the identity to pull this off. The third is some sort of reluctance, and a reluctance is a fear, situational fear. And then the last is a rule, and a rule is anything I need to see, feel, or hear in order to give myself permission to engage and move forward, whatever's stopping them. And so to me, I think a person should do the self-work and ask themselves, what's the problem I'm really trying to solve? And if I scale this, is it bigger than whatever potential obstacle I feel like I'm going to have in the way? Like in the case of, I don't want to coach with the complexities of having people, or I don't want to run systems. Well, those are all things you can obviously hire an integrator or an operator, and you got to relinquish control and you got to set standards. I mean, these are all things you can do to make it happen, which is what we've done.
And what did you actually see? So when you went from that business doing 1.2, essentially yourself, to starting to now build your team, what actually happened? What was the reality of your profit and kind of revenue? Like, how did those move as you made that transition to building your team? What should people expect when they make that leap?
Well, I mean, the first thing that happens is you have to start getting people to become you. So for example, like in my case as a consultant, which I know we're talking to other consultants out there, you're the guru that has all the information. And so what I had to do very quickly, and I didn't learn this in the first year, but I had to get people to become kind of versions of me. Mm-hmm. And so I developed a concept called know, show, do, teach, which is really kind of stupid simple, right? But know, show, do, teach, meaning that the first thing I do is I bring a person on that's another trainer consultant, and I give them the knowledge of here's what I'm teaching someone, or here's the advice I'm giving. And I make sure they understand the why and the how, and then show. So they shadow me, and then they do it, and I shadow them and give them feedback. And then they have to now teach it, to someone else. And so that's that mastery process. I would say the biggest thing where I failed in the very beginning is I hired people and I wouldn't let go of my own clients because I was scared, right? Because I wanted.
What were you scared of? Like, what were you scared of? What was going through your mind?
Well, I was scared that I had all this revenue, and immediately if I stopped working with the clients, then I would lose the revenue if I just kind of said, hey, I'm not working with you anymore. I'm going to hand you off to someone else because I'm not really doing that anymore. I was worried about that transition. And there's always an awkward transition because at that time I was fully booked. So I had zero time to develop anyone else. Mm-hmm. And so I went through several trainers, consultants that failed in the very beginning because I didn't give them the proper onboarding, the proper training, the proper coaching, because I wouldn't let go of the business. Now I don't take on any new clients. I mean, I do a lot of top level advice.
But when you said, Jason, that it was a mistake, why was it a mistake? What should you, in hindsight, have done differently around letting go of your own clients? What was the reality of that situation? And then how would you handle it now, knowing what you know?
So what I would have done back then, which is what we do now, and that is that if I'm going to transition a client off of me and onto another trainer, well, that person would co-lead things with me. So again, I would use that know, show, do, teach concept. So I would teach them on the side, but much as possible. And then they would shadow me. And then I would give them feedback on what I was doing, making sure they understood how to think like I think and do like I do. Yeah. And then we would co-lead some things, and then I would give them feedback. And then eventually they would do it all, and I would give them feedback, and then I would let them go, But I didn't do that early on. And so I really didn't develop them at all. I mean, I just would kind of give them the business, and they would kind of figure it out on their own, and I would kind of still have my own portfolio over here. Right. And so they just didn't succeed.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic advice for a lot of people who are in that exact spot right now, looking like, how do I transition? How do I bring on a new team member? And how do I do that successfully? So your background is sales, right? You've been in sales for a long time. Someone might look at that and go, okay, well, naturally, Jason uses sales skills to get his first few clients and build the business. Was that the case? Like, how did you actually go about getting your first few clients, and then how did that get you to your first million and beyond? Was it just pure cold calling and networking, or like what were you actually doing to build your book of business in the early days?
Great, yeah, that's a great question. And we still do that to this day, which is interesting. So my sales guys now do the same thing I did. So what I would do is, we use this assessment tool called SPQ, which measures the situational reluctances that a salesperson has. There's actually 16 different reluctances.
Is that something you developed?
No, it's a third-party company called Behavioral Science Research Press, and we're their leading distributor of this product.
SPQ.
We built a lot of programs off of it. And so what I would do is I would give some sort of value add. So I would call a person and I would sell them on the importance of making sure they understand who their salespeople are, how to hire correctly, et cetera. And the test is like $200 a piece. And I would say, but here's the deal. I believe so much in the efficacy of this test that I'm going to give you this assessment. I'm going to give you one for free. And I want you to, don't tell me who the salesperson is. Don't tell me if they're at a bottom producer, average, or top. But I will predict. I will tell you who they are. I will tell you where they fall. And I will tell you what's holding them back and what excuses they're giving you. And if I'm correct, then I can prove the validity of it. And we'll go from there. So I did a lot of that kind of stuff in the beginning.
And were you, sorry, just to jump in, but were you calling people that you had absolutely no connection with? It's like, it's just finding them, their name, information, whatever, picking up the phone and calling them? Or was there any kind of seeds that you were planting beforehand or value given before you were making that call? Or was it just straight cold?
I did both, and we still do both, but a lot of it was just strict cold call. I mean, I would write articles. I mean, I did write a book very quickly, a little small, like executives. I'm big on writing executive summaries and type books that are books
the people actually read and don't just sit on the bookshelf. And
I'm very big on how do I write a book that's, I've spent my whole life listening to executive summary type things. And so I would write a book you can read within an hour, like a little booklet. And so I would send that to people and then I would be on the call with them. I'd be pretty courageous and I would say things like, well, I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. No problem. Right now, do me a favor and just open the book and thumb through like anything. Just like thumb through anything. And the first thing that catches your attention, tell me what it is. Now, in that case, I wrote a book that I literally made like certain paragraphs and certain sentences big and bold. So I would just force the reader to like pay attention to certain lines. And they'd say whatever the thing was. I would leverage that and get position of strength. Well, why did that stand out to you? How would that benefit you? How is that different than you're thinking now or different than what your people are currently doing? So I would use like techniques like that to get some sort of leverage. I call it position of strength in selling, but position of strength is really important. It's the most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to selling. And that is what specifically do you offer them or can you do for them that would benefit them, that would move them towards improvement and move them away from pain? But it's not you telling them that. It's giving them some options and then they pick something and then you leverage that, you maximize that. And that's where that value comes in.
So is that like the assessment that you offered to people, that $200 value, but I'm going to offer it to you for free. So you're not now needing to sell yourself. You're selling something not even selling, you're offering something of value to them, which probably lowers their resistance, right? They don't feel like they have to make a decision about you. It's just something that they can appreciate in terms of value. And then it makes the follow-up conversation much easier, much smoother.
Yeah. It's something too. It's high value, low time on their part. And it's a pretty ballsy kind of claim, like in that case, it was like the book thing. It's, hey, flip through anything that you find in the book will be of value to you. Just flip through. I mean, that's a pretty kind of confident thing to say. Or in the assessment, it's, I guarantee you that I can tell you if a sales producer is bottom, middle, or high, and what specifically their excuses are. Like, who doesn't want to know? That's a pretty, and that's like a tarot card reader, So like that, they want to figure that out. Like, how do you know that?
And how did you figure that out? Like, how did you come up with that strategy, that approach? Because I think that in itself is very unique, right? The whole positioning, the way you just laid it out right now, you've always kind of choreographed it and thought about how to really make that stand out and to convey a lot of value through it. So what were you trying to accomplish like in developing that approach?
So I was trying to...
Or was it just testing? Like, were you just trying?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm a big fan. We do one of the ways that we got to 1 million followers on Facebook is we did a lot of hypothesize, test, and pivot. We use that philosophy a lot. And so I think in this case, though, it was just, I wouldn't say arrogance, but it was a tremendous amount of confidence that I had a lot of efficacy in what I was teaching, or in this case, this assessment or this book, whatever it was, that I just knew in my heart it could solve a problem they have. I mean, in my world, it's easy because everyone's got a sales problem. In most cases, no one ever says we want to sell less. They always want to sell more, right? So I have a pretty easy thing, in my opinion, to sell. Where people get reluctant with me or they get skeptical with me is they've done sales training in the past. It just doesn't work. 164 billion. I wrote a book called WTF, Why Training Fails. And 164 billion is spent every year on some sort of training. 70% fails, reaches ROI. So there's a lot of skepticism out there when it comes to training in general. People try to change the name. They call it development. They just, whatever, they get away from it. And so I'm very big on how do I confront that head on and be correct. Like, again, like that WTF. I would send up, today we send all the time the book. It says WTF on it and it catches their attention.
Of course, because they're thinking something else when they first see WTF, right? I'm very interested right now in terms of you've built the business to this point where 30 employees, I believe, right? Give or take. Okay. How has your marketing changed? How has your approach to sales changed over the years? What are you doing differently now compared to what you were doing before? Anything that just stands out as like, yeah, this is a real takeaway, or I wish that I would have been doing this earlier?
Some of the things that we do now, I mean, we still do all of that stuff.
Okay.
So now the difference is I just have a sales team that scales it, right? So
You've kind of replicated yourself. There's a whole bunch of Jasons and other people, Jills and so forth, that are doing what you were doing. But okay, how about the methods?
So that's that. So the method hasn't really changed from that standpoint. I would say the things that we've gotten smarter on is stuff like, this is pretty silly, but we do a thing called the cookie funnel, which to get a person to talk to us, we will send a sales team a box of cookies. And then it says from FPG, it doesn't say anything about us. And a good majority of them will email back, hey, you got my attention. What do you guys do? And then that's one. Or if they don't call us at all, then we'll call them, hey, just wanted to make sure you got the cookies and wanted to check in on that and so forth. And then we'll leverage that and turn that into some sort of something else. We've sent people like pizzas. We've actually gone to Domino's and delivered pizzas to people just to get them to talk to us. Because our team is really good. We have we live by what we preach, of course. And so we have a very disciplined 5-4-3 sales process that we follow and we teach. And so when they get on the phone with them and they can get them to talk to them, we follow that process. We do that. We also use, we do a lot of posting on LinkedIn and Facebook. But anytime someone comments, then my sales team is immediately reaching out to that person. Hey, I'm glad that you commented on that. What did you like about it specifically? I'd like to have a conversation with you and talk about it. I mean, so we're following up on comments, which I guarantee you, most human beings are not doing that.
Sure.
They'll post something on LinkedIn. Like, so this podcast, for example, I mean, people can watch what we're going to do, but I guarantee you my team will take this podcast and they will chop it up into segments, into sound bites. They will repost it on LinkedIn and people will engage on it. And then you will watch my team immediately reach out to the people who are engaging, liking it or commenting on our conversation. And they will leverage it, try to get on the phone with them and make them a client. I mean, that we can add value. So
you've talked a lot about, this idea, there's a lot of sales training out there, WTF, that a lot of it fails. What's different about what you do? Really, what is kind of the secret sauce? Or if you had to point out one or two things that really differentiates, or said a different way, really helps your clients to see success and to achieve that true ROI, what is it? While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
So we have 5 things, our 5-step process. So number 1 is everything we teach is very tactical and chunked down, which sounds ridiculous, but it's amazing how many training programs out there. And we do leadership training and we do sales management training and we do salesperson training and customer service training. So we do different areas as well. But everything we do is very step by step by step. For example, if you go to our competitors, they will tell you what to do and even why to do it. But people are left with, how can I do this? So Challenger is a big competitor of ours. And not to bash them, Challenger's actually been really good for us. We've gotten a lot of business off of Challenger. So Challenger would tell you, hey, it's important to go challenge the customer's perspective to give them insight. But people buy into that stuff and well, how in the world do I even do that? When do I give them insight? When in the process
they're not getting the scripts or the wording or the exact kind of 1, 2, 3
do these things. So we've got a 5-4-3. So it's 12 different steps, right, into the process. So it's very chunked down, and even within the steps, there are steps and so forth. So that's one. Number 1 is tactical. Number 2 is mindset based. And so everything we do is about removing the leashes, so the rules, the reluctances, the stories, and the self-image that prevents them from doing the tactical training. So that's a big thing. Mindset is huge for us.
How do you deliver that to your clients? Because mindset is one of these things that for some people, they understand, they know that they need to be stronger or to expand their mindset or whatever. But even when they still face like the truth, they don't necessarily implement it. So how do you help your clients to actually benefit from that understanding around mindset?
Yeah. So myself and Mary Marshall, one of the presidents of the company here, we're both one of less than 2,000 in the world master practitioners in neuro-linguistic programming. So we use a lot of that cognitive behavioral therapy and so forth, and we've developed that. So all along in every video that we teach them some sort of tactical thing, there's also some belief stuff that goes with that, as well as we do a monthly masterclass around mindset and taking these concepts of, hey, what is holding you back from doing blank? Like let's use the last, what's holding you back from, you post something on social media, people comment on it. So what's stopping you from just picking up the phone or LinkedIn messaging them and having a conversation with them? Just ask that question and that'll tell you the story, the self-image, the reluctant, or rule that's preventing them from doing, I want to wait or I want to be too
so powerful,
right?
So powerful. I mean, there's so many people who are just leaving opportunities like that on the table, right? Every single day where there's some hesitation or something that's holding them back from doing this. I think I want to thank you just for sharing that because I hope that people listening or watching this are going to actually take that to heart and take action on it. Yeah,
it's huge. And so the third thing is everything we do is a program-based approach versus an event-based approach. So learning is a through time process. It is not a one and done process. It's completely false. That's why training fails. So people call themselves trainers, but you can't change behavior in a one-day event. It's impossible, right? So if you learn the concept that only 5% of our decisions are made from a conscious perspective on a daily basis, 95% are made from a subconscious perspective, and 70% of that subconscious programming was created by the age of 7. The other 30% was age of 13. So if what you want from your conscious perspective of here's what I want to achieve in my life, well, if it's not in alignment with your subconscious, 95%, you're never going to get it. You're going to hit the wall.
Yeah.
And so you have to change that through habituation, through the mindset thing. And so we do programs. So it's experiential learning, weekly calls, seminars. It's a whole program.
And is that delivered for each client individually, or are you opening it up to all of your clients? It's kind of done almost like a group coaching type of just, if you're one of our clients, you get access to this weekly training. How do you structure and deliver that for your clients?
Yeah. So it depends on their investment, of course. So if it's individual, consultant, salesperson, et cetera, small business, they can join one of our public type deals, even though those are less than 15 people per Zoom.
Got
so
it.
It'd be 15 people in a Zoom coming together at a public seminar, going through the curriculum, the 21-week follow-up program. And so that would be that. If it's an enterprise client or a sales team, let's say of like 10 or more people, well, they would have a private program that would be just those people in that company going through the curriculum together on that weekly basis.
Makes sense.
But it's very different. So again, on our calls, what's different is that we're not just talking in theory about, hey, did you like the concept? It's tell me about a customer you're working and let's talk specifically about how it worked and what stopped you from doing it. So there's a lot of accountability on those to really remove and kind of bust those leashes down. So that's that program-based approach. And then the fourth thing is sales management coaching. So we will not do a sales training program unless it's for an individual, but for a company, we will not do a sales training program unless the sales managers go through leadership sales coaching as well, which turns them into high performance coaches and shows them how to follow the 4-stage coaching process, the 8 objective coaching in a coaching methodology, because all the research says that you get 3 times greater performance when a sales manager is going through the same program and coaching it as the salesperson's going through. So that's a huge thing. And then the last thing is culture. So culture is like the umbrella 5th step where we work with the C-suite, the CRM, rewards, compensation, hiring, assessments, all that cultural stuff to reinforce what we're asking them to do to change that individual behavior. And so we got to make sure all that's in alignment from an organizational development perspective.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. 2 final questions in here for you, Jason. How has your pricing changed over the years? As you've added more team members, clearly, you're working both with individuals, as you said, small business owners and so forth, as well as large organizations. What's happened to your pricing as the business has grown? Have you found that you've productized more and you've been able to bring prices down to make it more accessible to more people? Have you increased your prices as you've created greater results? Have you changed your compensation models where you're taking a percentage of increase of revenue? Like, what is your kind of pricing strategy or just thoughts around pricing as the business has evolved?
in the last 12 months, we've added this individual product line.
Okay.
So again, we're a salesperson. It's $5,000. I mean, I'll tell you the price. It's $5,000, and they go through 4 days of seminars over the, let's say, 11 months and 21 follow-ups in the videos. And so that's that. I mean, so before we didn't have that. I mean, before an individual person we priced out of our program.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very reasonable, and that's very in line with the market. We've also added, like, we have the monthly masterclass that we do. That's like $20 a person per month for to be a part of that masterclass thing. So we have offered, and created some other kind of pieces.
Yeah. So, and why do you do that? Like, if you had the large organizations that you were serving, why not just stay focused on that? Like, what was the decision strategically within the organization to add that additional layer?
Because I felt that when you look at like Sandler, so Sandler owns the space in the individual kind of small business sales training. And we did not have that space. So we weren't in that space, but we just feel that their program is very outdated. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't do good value. It doesn't have the mindset piece. It doesn't have as much follow-up. It's not as tactical. It's not as relevant. So we just feel like it misses the mark. And so we felt we had a lot of requests from the market that said, gosh, I have to use Sandler. I'd rather use Warrior Selling and FPG, but my company's not doing this. We can't afford it. And so I think we just listened to the market in that case, and we wanted more people to have access to it. But I mean, as far as our pricing is concerned, I mean, I would say our pricing is relatively the same today. I mean, it's probably gone up maybe 10% in the last 9 years. It hasn't really gone up that much, but we have been able, through infrastructure and through systems and processes and different things, we have been able to increase our profit by leveraging different resources. But I wouldn't say that our price has gone up. I'm sorry, our price has gone up relatively. And the profit's gone up because I don't do the training anymore.
Right.
So as a consultant, now I've got people, I mean, I charge $20,000 for a keynote. When I first started, I was charging $3,000 for a day. So now I've got people that are doing that at a much lesser rate. So the same price I used to charge, we're charging today, but I'm not doing it anymore.
Right. That's kind of like coming back to the original point where you were full capacity, right? Doing over $1 million and then building out. So initially, I'm guessing your profit went down as you had to add on all those additional resources, but revenue top line was growing. And then at some point, do you remember like how long it took you to get it back to, okay, profit is actually back to where it was when I was just a one-man show?
Yeah, probably like 6 or 7 years.
Okay. So it took a little while, but now that you've reached that place, things are obviously still an investment well worth it. And you create a lot more leverage in time for you that you weren't having to do everything.
Correct. Yes. And the other advantage is, I mean, I'm really more of an artist, which I assume a lot of people listening to are now today as well. Most businesses are started from an artist. They have something they want to create and kind of give their art to the world. And so in my case, I love creating new material and new content, and I love solving new problems. And so, I mean, that's the coolest thing for me, is it allows me to make that happen. So like, for example, I tell my company all the time that my employees are my human guinea pigs. And so, I mean, every Monday, if you were to listen to, we have a thing called Monday Mission Meeting, and then Thursday I have a thing called Leading Edge Meeting. And that's where these are 2 hours where I take my 30 plus employees and I'm just teaching them something that I've been working on the last 7 days. So it's the most original concepts that I'm kind of dissecting. I mean, right now we had this big theme in our office called abundance, and we're getting ready for 2020 on abundance. And so I'm taking them through all kinds of exercises to remove their self-worth issues and their image issues about giving themselves a pay raise. And this is just an accountant. I mean, just so
sure.
So I push the envelope a lot, and that's, that brings me a lot of joy, because I can do what I want to do and at the same time get the kinks out. And then what really makes a difference, then we can turn into a program and sell it to the world. Yeah,
I think that's awesome. All right. So final kind of question here. You have, I think, your latest book, The Mindset of a Sales Warrior. You share mindsets and strategies that make up the top 1%. We've talked a fair bit already today about mindset and the importance of it. Is there any other, one mindset or one maybe point from that book that you would want to bring forward and share with people? And then I want to make sure that we can let them know how to go and find out more about it and all of your other work in your company here. But yeah, what stands out? What is maybe one powerful mindset or way of thinking that someone could implement right now that could benefit them even starting tomorrow?
The whole book is all around, how do I increase my goal level when it comes to self-promoting, engaging, and bringing in more business? How do I increase my motivation? How do I decrease the 4 types of leashes: self-image, stories, rules, and reluctances? So it's 42 strategies on how to do all of that, right? And so one would be the technique that I gave on the call today, which is the procrastination concept on your compelling vision, and then, removing the leashes. But, an easy one specifically is whenever you have something you want to strengthen, you want to create an affirmation around it. Okay, so anything you want to strengthen, you want to create an affirmation around it. Anything you want to weaken, you want to question. So for example, if let's go back to the idea of, I like the idea of put someone on LinkedIn or Facebook and someone engages on it, an article, a video, whatever. But I need to go follow up that person and see if I can provide value and generate some business from it. Well, the first question you want to ask is, well, what stops me from doing that? Well, that would identify the leash. And then they're going to tell you, then the leash will come up and it'll say, well, I don't want to come across too pushy. And so, okay, well, what's your strategy to not come across too pushy? Well, I'm going to continue giving them more value and see what they do. Okay, well, how many pieces of value do you want to do before you're going to reach out and contact? I don't know. 5 pieces of value. Okay. But how do you know, but if they have a problem they need solved right now, is it possible that they'd be able to get to those 5 pieces of value before their business can go down and go under? You can really serve them. And how do you know it's going to be true that they're going to talk to you after 5 pieces of value? And so it's just a lot of that's questioning it. And what you're doing by questioning the leash is you're kind of making it ridiculous. Because if you question it, you kind of disassociate and go, well, there's no evidence to prove that if I do 5 pieces of value, that they're going to pick my phone. Or what's the evidence to prove that they're not going to talk to you if you call them? Well, I don't have any. I don't know. Maybe they will talk. Well, so it's just that questioning process. That's of the 42 strategies. That would be one. There's some exercises in there that I take them through. It's very, very tactical. Well,
I think like you and I were talking before we hit record and had a few technical hiccups here on the call, just about the importance of working with a coach, right? Like regardless of what stage you're at in your business. And I think some of these questions you just mentioned right now, like that's actually the value that a coach can bring because they're going to challenge you, right? Hopefully they're challenging you on some of your ways of thinking. And I think that kind of situation that you just brought up would be a very common and a powerful conversation to have. But let's make sure that people can learn more about your book and about just what you have going on. So where should people go, Jason, to kind of get a hold of all that?
So right now, I'm not sure how long we're going to do it, but if they go to warriormindsetbook.com, so warriormindsetbook.com, what we're offering is they can get the book for free. We are asking they pay for shipping and handling, which is, less than $10. If they don't want to do that and they go to Amazon and pay $26 plus shipping and handling for the book. But inside of that, there's several other offers as well that you pay an extra $30 or something like that. And you get the audiobook where Mary and I discuss each chapter in great depth. I also have some hypnosis tracks. I'm a certified hypnotist when it comes to business. And so I have some hypnosis tracks I can take them through on removing these leashes, these blockages, some affirmations, some posters. I have some recordings of coaching sessions I've done with salespeople on breaking their leashes down. They can listen to that. There's a lot of cool things they can get in there and offer.
So warriormindsetbook.com, you said warriormindsetbook.
Warrior Mindset Book.
Okay. We'll have all that linked up here in the show notes. Just head on over to consultingsuccess.com, type in Jason Forrest, Forrest, or even Jason. I'm sure it'll come up. Jason, I want to thank you so much for coming on here today and sharing some of your journey and wisdom with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.